The new patch, guys. Here we go. StarCraft 2 announced today there was a new patch, and I'm here to answer some questions, some thoughts, give some insight. First and foremost, I see someone in the chat say something. They said, was this patch expected or did it come out of nowhere? I can say it has been in the works for a very long time. Very, very long time. I thought this patch actually was likely to come out like a year ago. Maybe not exactly a year, but it's coming up on a year. Maybe not a year, maybe like April, May. I really thought the patch was going to come out because basically, for those who don't know, there's a Discord that is filled with all the top pros. Okay, so people are confused. Some people make stances on like who is in the balanced team. You know, is it like former people? Is it players? Is it mostly Blizzard people? It's literally just the pro players of the game today, more or less. Now, there are a lot of people in there. Okay? There are a lot of people in there. But pretty much the only people making, contributions are the people who are high-level StarCraft players. It's not like I would never say something. I would never have a say. So this has been in the works very, very long time. And there's been a lot of discussion. The way it works sometimes there's a lot of discussion and then it goes silent for a while. And then there's a lot of discussion that goes silent for a while. So to see them actually push forward, push the PTR, a lot of the players wanted it. They were able to do it. It is nice. And I would expect the balance patch, I don't know exactly when, probably not till after December. Hopefully January would be a nice time. Maybe a new balance patch and new maps would be nice. So we'll get into it. That's what I can say on the whole sequence of making. It's all the top pros. I mean, not everyone gives feedback, but everyone's in there to have their eyes on it. So it's not just it didn't just come out of some complete random place. Now that said, looking at these patches, we'll look at it like I said, and I'll say again at the end. Pretty much, any balance change here is good. Even if everything here I absolutely hate for Protoss, in theory, it's still good because it's good to have a balance update instead of not having a balance update. So we'll breeze through it, most of it. I'll start with the Zerg because it's starting us with the Zerg. Creep tumor cooldown increased from 11 to 13 seconds. Slight range reduced from 11 to 10. Minor changes, but obviously a little bit nice for us Protoss players. Obviously the creep spread can really get out of hand. The creep vision can get out of hand. It can be hard to push it back. It can be tedious. So obviously this is quite nice for us. Nothing crazy here. Nothing really game changing, but it's going to be a little bit annoying probably for the top Zerg players where you have to wait that extra second. You're probably used to that timing. But in general, it's, pretty minor. Hatchery layer and hive creep spread intervals decreased from 0.3 to 0.25. Slight range increase. So basically, they nerfed the creep spreading and they buffed the creep spread a little bit on the hatcheries. Hatchery plus, whatever is the hatchery, whether it's a layer hive. So, sure, whatever. Viper added 0.17 second cast finish time to abduct. Cannot move or use other abilities during this time. Yeah, Viper is really, really strong. So it probably did need to be touched up. I mean, the Viper right now, you could argue that the Viper is the best unit in the entire game. So is this as big of a nerf? I almost would have rather seen more done to the Viper. Making the Vipers even harder to use. Yeah, they are hard to use. I guess I can say, if you're in the lower leagues, they could be tough. But the thing is, in the lower leagues, if you're facing massive void rage, just 2 parasitic bombs would win you the game. Is this real? This is very real. It's happening. Probably, this is the PTR. You could play this right now, but the actual balance patch probably won't go through till, next month and a half, I'm thinking. There's a lot of changes like this. Ultralisk reduced its size, increased range. Range targets can move before miss. So a lot of tweaks is what you see. I don't think you want to make massive changes, make tweaks here and there, let the meta settle. Somewhat. It depends though, because like let's say you're gonna have one big change. It depends if there's gonna be multiple changes or if there's gonna be like a big change, because we used to always have a massive change, and now I actually thought there was more things in the works, but we've settled on this for now, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are even bigger changes. Down, Hydra's getting changed, muscular augments, move speed bonus, so they're once they get the Hydra upgrade, they're a little bit faster. And damage point reduced from 0.15 to 0.1. That's basically like the time to attack, the stutter stepping. Basically, this change really only affects more things like interceptors. And like basically Hydras can hopefully handle carrier interceptors a little bit better, but maybe it doesn't change them that much versus things like stalkers, versus things like zealots. This is more of a change aimed at handling something that where the Hydras won't overkill something. So if there's a bunch of interceptors with low health, the Hydras can kill them and they won't be overkilling like as crazy. It's still a pretty small change, right? But I would say, a little Hydra buff. And you remember the Hydra being insanely broken like 4 or 5 years ago. Those are some dark times. Broodlord movement speed increased from 1.97 to 2.3. I think this is okay. Right now you do see some Broodlords, but you don't see a ton of Broodlords, but obviously their biggest issue is mobility. So, sure, give them a little more playability. The Broodling, the duration reduced. So, they have the trade-off, right? The Broodlord is a little bit faster, but the Broodling duration is a lot less. A lot less. So, would you say this is a nerf or a buff? I don't know. I would say it's a slight nerf. I think it just plays a little bit differently than it does right now. I will say the movement speed probably will feel pretty wild flying those Broodlords around. But this is a pretty, like, the Broodling duration is pretty shallow there. I don't know. It's just like a little bit of a trade-off. I wouldn't even say it's a buff or a nerf. It's a little bit of a trade-off. We'll see how it plays. Maybe it'll be way too strong. Maybe it'll be weaker. I feel like the duration being reduced is still... I don't know. It just depends the situation the Broodlords are in, right? Like if you're sieging on a place and the Broodlords are dying fast, then sure. But I feel like a lot of times when the Broodlings are shelling down on you, are they really timing out? I guess if you have a ton of Broodlings, I don't know. I don't know. I never even really thought about it. So we'll see how it plays. I think I'm not sure which is stronger, having them with better move speed or having them with less duration, but we'll see. Increased range slop from 1.1 to 1.4. Range target can move before miss. I am not exactly sure. Has someone else explained that? What the heck is a range slop? If I had to take an educated guess, it's something with the Ultra where the range target can move. Kiting but still gets hit. So when they're attacking, it's instead of 1, it's 1.4. Okay. You can't kite so easily. Wait, so you can't kite so easily? Is it... So range units have to move farther to dodge hits. Oh! Yeah, okay, yeah. We're all talking the same thing. Seems like a lot of pretty big changes. They are real. They are very real. Oops. Hold on. There. They're still patching it. They are. They love StarCraft. Ravager build time increased. This seems pretty fair. Ravager, honestly, I feel like it doesn't see as much play, but it still sees quite a bit of play. Ravager's obviously very strong. It's a very strong unit, so I think this is pretty fair. This also like slows down some all-ins, makes them a little bit not as nice. I honestly think when the PTR moves to the real balance patch, I think there might be a few more things in it than this, I think, but we'll see. Uh-oh. Here comes the danger, chat. To the Protoss. Battery getting nerfed. Battery overcharge recharge rate reduced from 200 to 150. The super battery is great. It is great. So, can I understand it? Yes. Do I like it? The thing is, I've always been a guy where here's my bias take is that I've always been a guy that as a Protoss player, I mean, I probably should have this as my wrap up. I should get through the boats and then I'll have my wrap up thoughts. But I'll say this one bias take is I always felt like, I mean, I don't know. This is like the super bias take, but I felt like for a long time in StarCraft, there would always be balance changes. Well, at least the way balance used to work is every year there'd be new big balance changes. Okay, so obviously nowadays things work differently. We have pretty long intervals between balance changes. I don't know when the last balance change even was, but it used to. I swear, what used to happen is there'd be a year of, especially during peak Zerg dominance, it'd be a year of Zerg dominance, and there'd be a huge balance change, and then it'd be like another year of Zerg dominance. So I used to have the mindset where it's like, I don't really care if I'm the OP race. Make me the OP race is how I felt. I mean, more or less how I still feel. You know, if they hate me, they hate me. At least my race is strong. Because like for a long time, what used to happen is Zerg would win everything. Then there'd be a balance change. Zerg would still win everything. Then it happened like 3 or 4 years in a row where the Zerg was winning everything, and there was always big balance changes, but Zerg would still win everything. So then at a certain point, I was like, okay, honestly, I wish they just made Protoss like insanely strong. So observer move speed increased from 2.63 to 2.82. Model size increased. So like this, I don't know how I feel about this, to be honest. If you were to ask me, would you take this? I don't know if I would say yes. I don't know. It's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. Because like to me, I feel like observers are very often not moving. Obviously, they're with your army, but I feel like a lot of times the observers are just in the observer mode. I think it's probably a buff, I would say, I guess, but they're going to be so easy to spot. I think people are like they're going to be easy to spot. Also, it's kind of a buff. Basically, the observer used to be a 3-speed. Then they pushed it back to 2.63, and now it's 2.82. So they went middle ground on it. So I don't know. It'll be a lot easier to see. That's my only issue. But maybe you can outrun the Raven now. Maybe if a Queen and a Overseer are following you, you can outrun that. And also the big thing with this is the observer can now get across the map maybe and scout for you in a situation where maybe it couldn't scout for you. So obviously a quality of life change is pretty nice. Archon not getting stuck in your walls. I mean, it's pretty nice. I mean, the thing is Protoss did revolve their wall, like pretty much all their walls around. Well, not all their walls around that. Back when we had more 2-gate expand PvP maps, the good players used to. I don't know if I can even hold on. It's not going to be a good example. But if you imagine, hold on. Okay, here's a map. You're walling the ramp. All the good players would have their gateway wall where an Archon could fit through, and I would never do that. I would always have the wall not for my Archons. Too much work. Maybe I'll see. We'll see. I feel like the observer's going to look huge, but maybe it'll be okay. It's a trade-off. I'm not sure if it's better or worse. The thing is the observer getting seen more, but maybe it escapes more. Who knows? Also, quality of life. High Templar movement speed increased to the same exact as the observer. I don't know if you guys noticed that. But it's kind of a nice quality of life change. It's just a thing where it's like, it's not going to be behind your arm. You're not going to have to waiting. It's kind of making play. A lot of these, at least a fair amount of these changes are also made in mind. I mean, the pros were trying to think, what are good changes? What's good quality of life changes? What's good changes to make in general? Obviously, for balance, but also just in general, what's a good change? So that's where a lot of these came from, because these are the pro players behind all of these. Okay, this was not Blizzard. This was not, TLO from Shopify in the back streets. Okay, this is the players of the game that came up with it. So, yeah. So, I mean, this is probably pretty nice. Maybe you can outrun some Banelings a little bit better with the high temp. Also, if they're nerfing our buddy, pretty big nerf to the Disruptor. I mean, you'll still see it, I think. But I mean, you look at this from a Protoss POV here, and honestly, Like, a balance change is good. Always good. I'm never going to say a balance change is bad because we needed a balance change. But it's hard to love these changes, I feel like, as a Protoss player. I feel like it's hard to love them. Yeah, I mean, Disruptor becoming weaker, High Templar moving faster, sure, Observer, like trade-off, nerf, quality of life, buff, slight buff. Disruptor is pretty big nerf because the thing is, Disruptor is a big part of all of your games. Maybe not as much versus Zerg, but it's a big part versus Terran, and it's a fairly big part versus Protoss. So, it's going to change a lot. It reminds me, this isn't as big, but it reminds me of when we had back-to-back patches when they removed the Mothership Core, and then they nerfed, I forget what the other nerf was, Immortals or something, but they gutted like 2 of Protoss's main things they did, and it was just really hard times. I don't think it'll be like that, obviously, because this will still be used and it'll still be strong, but it's a pretty big nerf. I mean, it's a pretty big nerf. And then Carrier also, Interceptor shields reduced 40 to 30. They're going to be low health. Attack priority reduced from 20 to 19. So I believe this means, I forget exactly how it all works, but I believe like 20 is like a default. So I believe Interceptor attack priority. I forget exactly what this means, but this is like Corruptors target carriers. Yes, it's a movie. So it's like even the Hydras will be attacking the carriers, right? Unless you're like on hold position. It's like if you were to A-move a bunch of Vikings, they're not going to get mixed up on the Interceptors. So pretty big change, pretty big change. Because that's sometimes when you have carriers that like how you win fights is they spend 2 seconds by accident focus firing the Interceptors and then all your Void Rage carriers kill everything, right? So pretty big nerf to the carriers. So obviously as Protoss bias here, again, like I said in the beginning, all changes are good just because we have changes. It's good. The community is excited. People are happy. But I feel like if I'm looking at this, I mean, we'll get to Terran in a second, but if I'm looking at this, Protoss feels like it gets the worst end of it. Sentry, this is quite nice, to be honest. Build time reduced from 26 to 22. It's pretty nice. I'm thinking early game PvZ, getting that Sentry out 4 seconds faster. You'll be able to scout a little bit faster. Any matchup, you'll be able to scout a little faster. The Hallucinated Phoenix is no joke. So this is pretty nice for the Sentry, to be honest. I mean, it's only an early game thing because you're not going to, once you have Warp Gate, it doesn't matter. But it just means you're going to be able to scout 4 seconds faster. 3.5. Pretty nice, honestly. Pretty nice. Then Forge upgrades. We're getting our Forge upgrade time reduced so we can get our upgrades out a little bit quicker. Mini buff here. You mean you had to compensate somehow? Because my only issue is that I get a little bit worried about like late game versus Zerg. What is the proper? How do you beat the Broodlords? Is this enough of a Broodlord nerf for you to beat Broodlord Corruptor in the late game versus Zerg? Seems like a big buff. I mean, the thing is, it's funny because it's like, what is a buff? What is a nerf? What is like? I think the Forge upgrades used to be even faster than this back in the day, I believe. They've been nerfed and then now they've changed. They always go back and forth. I mean, my only painful thing about this. So basically, let me tell you from the people who were helping making this patch. The thought process here makes a lot of sense. They wanted less carrier late games. Especially in the lower leagues, some of the leagues. They were trying to make it so there were less carrier late games, more mid-game armies battling. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. I do understand it. It's very hard. It's very, very hard to make it work, I would say. We'll see how it all plays out. I'm sure now we're going to have maybe Colossus Archon. Some type of Colossus Archon Storm. A big gateway Colossus. Maybe not Colossus, but we're going to see big gateways again. Big gateway comps. And I'm just a little bit worried. We'll see how it plays out. You know, who knows? But it does worry me a little bit that I'm scared that as a Protoss player, it could feel hard to get into the late game versus Zerg and feel comfortable, is how I feel with these changes. I mean, Broodlords, yes, you can still make some Tempest, but if they have enough Carrier or Corruptor, we'll see how it all plays out. Maybe the upgrades will be big enough. But it really pretty much, all the Protoss changes here pretty much push you into more of a gateway, Stalker, Zealot, Storm, you know, Disruptor nerf. They were trying to minimize like quick game-ending moves, so obviously the Disruptor nerf, obviously big carrier swarms. But the thing is, you know, especially with the A moving and stuff, carrier will still obviously be okay. It won't be like you can never use it, you know, but it does feel like it'll be quite a bit weaker. And I'm just a little bit worried how that's going to size up versus late game Zerg. I mean, we'll see. I mean, what do I know? I'm not. The thing is, when it comes to balance changes like this, and just in general, balance changes in general, it's why when people say like, "Oh, I'm masters," or they make like a comment like, "Oh, I'm master, I'm grandmaster." Like, I'm grandmaster, and I've been I would say I'm semi-pro because I make challenger pretty much every time. I compete with some of the best players in the game. Obviously, don't have the best results always, but I would consider myself a semi-pro, and I don't even think I'm good enough to talk balance. So it's hard for me to really say and how to really foresee how this will all go down. But I look at this and it does make me a little bit worried for late game PvZ. But I mean, the general ideas behind this change and this change in general, like I said, is they're just trying to get away from the late game. Is really what their goal was. I think mostly across everything. Even they're trying to get less late game, more mid game, because then it would lead to more battles, more like Brood War almost. Right? It'd just be more battles in the mid game. So we'll see if that plays out. Terran, a lot of Terran players seem to be unhappy right now with the changes. But we'll get through it. Ghost Enhanced Shockwaves upgrade removed pretty much has to be removed because what you've done to the, you know, nerfing the Disruptor. If you have a weakened Disruptor, imagine current day TVP with no Disruptor. Protoss would almost never win just because the Ghost EMP, the Marauders, the Liberators, you'd almost never win as Protoss. Plus, what makes Disruptors really good is with Enhanced Shockwaves, it was very, very simple to EMP your High Templar. Very, very simple. Obviously, you could have it in a Prism, but if your if the two armies are moving into each other, the Terran, with how big the radius is of the EMP, you should never be able to get anything off as a High Templar. They can always hit you with the EMP. So you pretty much this is forced off of the Disruptor change. And basically they're trying to get it a little bit more even with the Ghost and High Templar here. But also, you know, Ghost obviously dominates late game Terran versus Zerg. Base EMP radius. So the EMP radius obviously a little bit buffed. You can't just completely knock it down. Say targeting is canceled if the target moves more than 13.5 range away from the Ghost while casting. So that's, you know, if it's sniping you and you run away, it can break the snipe a little bit easier. Like right now, sometimes you'll see late game TVZ, they just camp on Ghosts and then like they'll line up a bunch of snipes and then everything just dies and you can't get away from it. So this is them trying to help late game PvZ and just kind of trying to rework the Ghost a little bit, not being as much of a powerhouse. Again, trying to get off this mega heavy massable late game units is kind of where they were at. Banshee Hyperflight Rotors upgrade reduced rotors cost. So this is the Banshee speed upgrade. It never sees play. They're trying to make it see some play. Be pretty annoying if people start building this, to be honest, because those Banshees are absolutely flying and they can become very, very annoying to deal with. I still don't think we'll see them a ton, but I think if players start building them, I mean, it just depends, because if Protoss players are going Stargate builds a lot, you couldn't really ever go Banshee. But definitely something that could be very annoying in your games if they do it. Still slower than Phoenix, yes. And like a Phoenix and an Oracle could tag them, but I'm thinking if you're not on Stargate and they've gone Hyperflight Rotors and they're running around with the Banshees, it's very, very annoying. It's very, very annoying. So really, the creep spread nerf is going to make a huge difference at the pro level. I think it's definitely a nerf. but I don't think it's going to be a huge difference. No, I don't think so. Because do you think, like, the slight range reduced, sure. But do you really think every 11 seconds all the time? Like, of course it's going to take some time for Zergs to get used to this, especially the highest level. They're used to that 11-second interval. But definitely over the course of the game, they'll adapt. They'll still spread it out pretty fast. Obviously, if you think about it over like a 2-minute duration, instead of getting 5, 10 spreads, it gets... 11 times 5 is 55. Yeah, so if you think about it over, it definitely is a pretty big change. You're not wrong. I mean, if you spread it out over the course of especially 3-4 minutes instead of spreading a creep tumor, okay, let's say 5 minutes game time, 1 creep tumor. 5 times 60 is 300 divided by 11. 121 times 3. But a little bit less. 11. Hold on. It's about 26 times, right? 26, 27 times. And then if you every 13 seconds, assuming you do it perfectly, 13 divided by 500. Wait, I did it by 300, I think. Okay, No, I did it right. I think. Because it's 300 seconds. 13 divided by 300 is what? 13 into 60 is 4. 20. So maybe like 20 instead of 26, 27. Definitely an impact. I don't know if it's game changing, but it definitely is nice because like creep really does get out of hand. It does get out of hand. Hold on. Cyclone Magfield accelerated damage bonus. We'll see if this has a big impact. Yeah. Cyclone change. Sensor tower. Radar reduced. I like this. I mean, especially like sometimes TVT becomes sensor tower wars. Just in general, I feel like the sensor tower is really, really good. So I'm pretty happy about that. A slight nerf to the sensor tower. Probably, honestly, will be not going to be big, but it'll be annoying for Terrans, that extra 3 range, I think. It'll be pretty annoying. The Raven, the big Raven rework. Gas cost reduced from 200 to 150. That's pretty big. 50 gas in the early game is no joke, guys. Absolutely no joke. Build time reduced 13 seconds at the stage of the game where you get Ravens. Also no joke. Those are pretty big changes. Starting energy increased, of course. 13 seconds faster. It's going to have a different kit. Interference matrix duration reduced. So if you interference matrix, it's like a Colossus, instead of 11 seconds, it's 8 seconds. Seems pretty fair. Interference matrix, pretty good. Anti-armor missile armor reduction reduced from 3 to 2. Also pretty fair. Pretty strong. The Raven was really quite strong. And the thing is, if they're going with these 2 changes, you can't just keep it the same way. So they're trying to give you some and take some away. Corvid reactor, what was that for Raven range? Auto turn energy increased from 50 to 75. So it's starting at 75 energy, but it costs 75. So instead of getting 4 auto turret spam at max Raven energy, it's going to be 2. So pretty big changes all in all. What do I think? Do I think it's a buff or a nerf? I feel like it's a slight, it's just a rework at the end of the day, but I feel like it's a slight buff to me. You guys think it's a nerf? It's just a little different. The anti-armor, okay. The thing is, the anti-armor one is actually probably one of the bigger ones here, because I think about it, do I think this 3 seconds makes a big difference? I guess it does. TVT, I don't know. I feel like TVT, a lot of times when the big Raven engagement happens, well, sometimes you definitely interference matrix, but sometimes it's the mass auto turret spam. I guess the less of the mass auto turret spam, instead of having 4 auto, it's actually with the current Ravens, it's very easy to have 4 to 6 if you have 2 or 3 Ravens. Now you'll just have maybe 2 or 3 auto turrets, which actually is a huge deal. So definitely is probably a bit of a nerf. But it's, they're just changing it around. Like right now it becomes a little bit more useful, not as gas intensive. Obviously it can come out in time way faster for the DT. So It's a change. I mean, again, I could go. Someone asked, what was the thoughts that sent to her? I could go back and look at like some of the big ideas of why people had decisions to make. You know, the thing is, I could go back and look. I'm not going to do it right now. But there was a lot of conversation about these changes. There were, and they've been in the works for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. So long that it actually felt like they were never going to come. So that they actually came is really quite incredible because the changes on it. We honestly could have had a balance patch a long time ago. Didn't work out. So getting it now, it's a beautiful thing. Obviously, there's a lot of things here. Bug fixes, quality of life changes. Follow acquire range reduced from 5 to 2 units. Start switch attack moving. Dark Templar attack blink delay reduced from 0.75 to 0.71. Yep. Normalized on game speed. Factory increased spawn radius by 1. You know, none of these are going to be super big. Okay, these are more changes though. Keep in mind, these are more changes. I guess these are the big ones because I remember some of these. They reduced the Widowmine, reduced random unburrow burrow delay from 0.3 seconds to 0.18 seconds. No longer targets. I forget. I remember them talking about the Widowmine change, but I forget. You know, it's a change, but it's also not the biggest deal. Huh. I saw Big Gabe going over this yesterday, or like 3 days ago on stream, where he was having the Cyclone Medvac issue. Dude, this was in the game for so long. I actually forgot about it, but I don't know if you guys know this. You can still do it now. But if you have a super battery, and you hold the S key, it literally makes your units invincible. It literally makes them invincible. They banned it from. You can't use it in pro games. They did ban it from being used in pro games. I actually completely forgot it was a thing. Let me get my eyes on it. One time. Absolutely glorious, to be honest. Beyond broken as well. We'll have to look. Okay,
Good
hold
luck.
on.
Have fun.
Let me set this up. I'll give you a probe. I'll give this guy 3 immortals. I'll give this guy, I don't know, stalkers. How do I? Oh, should have. Okay. Okay. Am I even going to do this right? We're going to find out. With the current battery, can they kill this? Oh, yes. Probably not the best units here to be using. Okay. How do I reset this crap? Maybe it's here. Another one. Okay. Is there a way to... Oh, reset. Oh, shoot. Maybe I can do it here. This guy has to make it, I think. Okay. Wait. Battery's still on cooldown. I completely scuffed this, to be honest. Hopefully this works out right. It's okay, we've almost got it. 3 seconds, okay. Come on in. Oh, the second battery. Okay. Not the right unit composition here, I guess. But basically, if you hold S, your units are basically invincible. Trust me on it. Trust me on it. All right. All right. Do we go through all the quality of life changes? Sure, I guess so. Where even were we? Fixed an issue where adepts could not be ordered to cancel the shade ability when selected with adepts who are not finishing warping in. You can mess up. It messed up the priority when you were doing it. Can be ordered to load into a warp prism while shading. That is pretty nice, actually. That is pretty nice. Something I'm probably not even going to remember. But that's kind of nice. Initial creep tumors canceled. I didn't even know that happened. I mean, most of these are bugs, quality of life changes. This is something. Stasis ward attack priority increased. So now if you're A-moving an army and there is an immortal behind the stasis trap or close to the stasis trap and you have vision, you still have to have vision of the stasis. But instead of walking into the stasis, they'll attack it like it's an immortal. So a little bit annoying for us Protoss, I guess, but it's just a change in general. They still have to have vision of it, but it makes it a little bit easier to A-move the stasis trap down instead of having to click on it. So, sure. This is kind of interesting too. The worker no longer need to wait before. I think worker harass will be a little bit more annoying now. Yeah, I mean, quality of life changes. Big balance update, guys. Big balance update. First one in, I don't know, a few years. So, overall thoughts on it. It's kind of interesting. You know, it brings back some good memories where like a balance update hits and then all the races are screaming bloody murder like it's the end of the world for themselves. I feel like as a Protoss, I feel like what race, guys? What race do you think got the worst end of it all? To me, I feel like Protoss got the worst end of it, but I'm sure I might be in my own camp there. The Terrans are upset. I do know. Like, I mean, obviously a lot of these aren't the biggest changes. Obviously, this creep tumor change could be kind of big, somewhat big. But then like the Hydra gets like a little bit faster. Because like I think about all the Protoss changes. None of these are really exciting. Battery nerf. Observer being faster, sure, but they're going to be seen more. Quality of life, sure. Nerf. I am worried about late game PvZ. The Hydras are like Marines. I'm worried about late game PvZ. We'll see how late game PvT works with Disruptor, because the thing is Disruptor is really necessary. Late game PvT. Necessary. But for those who don't know, you know, the pro players have been behind this, and basically the general idea is less late game, more mid game. That's the general idea. That's where the idea of many of these changes came from. That's why the Forge upgrades are increased, the carriers are nerfed, Disruptors are nerfed, Ghost is nerfed. I thought the Lurker was going to get nerfed. Maybe down the line. Broodlord has changed. I don't know if I call it. Would you guys call this a Broodlord nerf or a buff? I honestly don't know. How often are the Broodlings actually timing out? I don't know. They're faster. The Broodlings time out faster. I don't know. Ravager is nerfed, which is nice. Also, this is quite nice. The faster scouted, the 3.5 second faster scouting PvP. Anytime you get a sentry is honestly really, really nice. So, obviously, the Terrans are not going to be happy about losing their prize to late game. It's probably like us Protoss players losing our carrier. We didn't lose our carrier, but the Ghost is easily the best Terran unit. So, having this nerfed does definitely probably make them upset because they feel like, well, what are we supposed to do now? But yeah, changes are changes. All changes are good changes, and I'm very, very happy to see changes because it felt like for a while there, no changes were going to be coming. Why am I so high up? You guys can barely even see me. And we finally have it. The balance update. There it is.